Now this is a bear that I've been looking at over the past several days here, and this one I can't quite say who it might be. And that, again, that is not uncommon. Sometimes it takes me a while to figure out who's who. We also have over 2,000 brown bears in Katmai National Park, and new bears show up here at Brooks River every year. So while we know a lot of these individual bears very well, we see them year after year, we also see new bears arriving fishing spot. Some bears are very adaptable in their fishing locations. Some are specialists, they'll only fish in one spot. But when there's an opportunity to move to different places, they often do so. Sitting in the jacuzzi there, you have to have a little bit of size to you to hold your ground in that position. The force of the water really is trying to push them downstream. So the bigger you are, the easier it is for you to sit right in that spot. '89 is one of these bears that I think demonstrates a story of resiliency. I talk about this almost every time I see him. He was a fairly small yearling when I first observed him in 2007, and he also had a very pronounced limp. I couldn't tell what his leg injury was specifically. I don't know if he had broken bones or just a very severe sprain, but he limped for a significant period of time as a yearling in 2007. By the fall, he had healed through that. But before, we saw him healing, we would get a lot of comments from the visiting public talking about how we really needed to help this animal. Send him to a zoo at minimum. Some people even went as far to suggest that we euthanize him because he looked like he was in obvious pain. But bears in Katmai National Park are extremely tough animals, and one of the things that national parks protect is, the hardships that they face. And now, '89 was able to persevere through that pain and heal, and he is a growing adult male, and we're seeing him living the life of a successful wild bear right now. So we see the bears, being successful, catching salmon, eating a lot of fish, having a lot of offspring. We also see some of the hardships that they face. You may see injured bears on the cams. You may see bears with wounds on them, scars from old wounds, of course, sometimes broken bones. I've seen bears here with broken jaws. And then last evening, we did have a cub that was killed downstream of Brooks Falls. It was not visible from the webcams, but that did happen. So this is a very difficult place for animals to live. The abundant food resources allow more bears to survive here than other areas without salmon. And you can see two of the bears in the background eating those fish. But that doesn't mean that they don't face a lot of other challenges. Challenges posed by other bears, challenges posed by the climate. So when you're watching them, you can think about the conflicts that they face and the challenges that they have to meet in order to survive and reproduce. And here's another bear that's walked up to the waterfall. We'll follow her for just a little bit, presuming it's a her. I'm not exactly sure. It can be difficult to tell the sex of bears, whether they're male or female. You can often see in adult males the important parts that would help you to differentiate between a boy and a girl. But that's not always visible. So what I like to look for in most cases is that for them to urinate. So females will urinate out behind them, and it's very easy to tell whether it's male or female if you're able to watch them urinate. But based on this one's overall size, looks like it could be just a young adult female. This is another bear again that I don't quite recognize, so we'll follow it for just a little bit, kind of see what its behavior might tell us about its experience here, its rank in the hierarchy. You can see it moving around, head up, ears forward, so definitely not necessarily feeling threatened, but not moving very quickly either. Kind of twitching at some of the fish that it might feel bumping against it. You can see how those big claws might come in handy trying to pin a fish to the water. That's one of the big differences between brown bears and black bears. Black bears are the most common bear species in North America. The color of the animal isn't necessarily indicative of the species. There are brown black bears and there are very, very dark colored brown bears. But black bears have claws that are designed for climbing trees, much shorter, and brown bears have very long claws that are designed for digging. You can see even the gulls this evening looking pretty relaxed. They will fight with one another when food resources are not nearly as abundant. So bears eating a lot of fish, leaving a lot of fish scraps behind. So the gulls are able to find those very easily, satisfy their own meals. They do time their breeding cycle to coincide with the abundance of salmon here. So a lot of them probably have chicks that have just hatched and they're bringing back food to them. They nest on islands out in the lakes in this area. There's so much fish in the water right now. I really do have to think that each one of these bears has had a lot of salmon meals already today. Again, I talked about the urgency that we're not necessarily seeing in the animals. Sitting in the water, fish all around them, not trying very hard. So this was a big profitable day for them. In this entire watershed, the Naknek River watershed where we're standing at, about 500,000 sockeye salmon have gone up the river so far, in the Naknek River, I should say, and we'll get about 20% of those fish in total. The escapement goals are about, at the end of the run, will probably be between 1 and 2 million fish. So if there are 1 million fish coming into Brooks River, we can expect, and another bear moving to the waterfall. This one I was watching before the broadcast as I was setting up. This is another adult female, one of the older adult females here. This is number 409 bead nose. I think she's probably approaching her late teens right now, if not closer to 20 years old. And she's pudgy. She's already starting to gain weight that she lost during hibernation. She was catching a half dozen fish in the half hour prior to the broadcast and then left, took her time eating one of those. She's not lunging at any of the fish. I think that's a product of not only her relative level of satiation, but she doesn't need to work very hard. She just needs to wait a few seconds for them to jump right into her mouth, as you can see there. And again, that's a difficult skill. We saw 128 do that, and we just saw 409 catch this fish by its tail. Does take a lot of practice. Last evening there were a couple of bears, and earlier today I think there were a couple of the same bears that went to that spot that didn't have as much experience as 409 does in that location. But that's again a 4 to 7 pound sockeye flying through the air. So you can imagine somebody throwing a fish at your face that's that large and asking you to catch it in your teeth. It'd be very difficult to do. But bears demonstrate a considerable amount of strength in many ways, and standing on the lip of the waterfall is one of the more considerable or conspicuous ways that they're doing that. And it's about halfway through the broadcast, and I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Mike Fitz. I'm a fellow with Explore.org in the bear cams in 2018. Very glad that you could join me. This is July 4th, 2017, and I'm standing on a wildlife viewing platform next to Brooks Falls in Katmai National Park. Katmai National Park is located about 300 miles southwest of Anchorage, Alaska.